here we are. So the NFL and 2K have finally made some kind of a legal agreement to have 2K publish games. Now I'm going to get into my thoughts in this video on what I think this means for simulation football fans, and is this the news that we really wanted to hear? So there's been a lot of speculation. I heard the news earlier in the week. I actually heard it really early. I don't know how I caught it. It was right when I woke up in the morning. I had seen some tweets, and I swear that I was like, "Whoa, this has to be some kind of a joke." And then, after a few hours, it became real news, right? And since then, I've been thinking about and letting my thoughts kind of marinate and seeing what other people are posting and their thoughts. And so this video isn't brand new news. I'm not trying to get thousands of views on this. I just want to share my thoughts after about a week or so, or a little bit less than a week of this news coming out, right? So this is the article here from the NFL News. Okay, so we're going to go through this and kind of watch it and read it or whatever. But basically, it went through and it says that the NFL and 2K have announced a multi-year partnership. And this is going to encompass future video games, right? This partnership is supposed to be the return of football-themed games to 2K's stable of notable sports, titles, and original IP. Now, we all know, if you've heard the news, if you've been following it, we know very, very clearly that there's a term in here that people keep talking about called non-simulation. And that's going to ring a bell, a hard bell, on a lot of the guys that love 2K games, because we love the game for its quote-unquote simulation, less arcadey feel, right? So in the next paragraph here, it says the games will be non-simulation football experiences. While specific game titles, developers, and release dates will be announced at a later date, 2K confirmed the projects are in early development and will launch in the calendar year of 2021. Okay? So it's interesting because this is the major hot topic that people are ranting about, non-simulation, right? And we all know that 2K is mostly known for their simulation games, right? They are the ones that have done a great job with games like NFL 2K5, All Pro Football, all the NFL 2Ks prior to that. They are obviously highly regarded for the 2K series, the basketball series. And they've made plenty of games that have been great. The College Hoops 2K games. The wrestling game is supposed to be pretty good. I don't play wrestling games, but that looks like it's authentic. So anything that typically comes out of 2K, they're mostly authentic games, in my opinion. Now, they do dabble into games like NBA Playgrounds, which we'll talk about that for the NFL here. And I'll share my thoughts on that as well, because I know a lot of people are thinking that when they say non-simulation, obviously because the NFL is tied with EA, right? EA had a statement that came out as well that was like, hey, we're the simulation guys. If you want to buy a simulation game, come to us. We're the people that are making the simulation game. And 2K is basically hooked in with the NFL now, which is great news for a lot of reasons. But they're hooked in because they're going to be able to at least show the NFL and in some future games, right? So this article just goes on to talk about how the NFL is expanding their presence of the NFL brand into gaming companies outside of just EA, and 2K is a partner that they're excited to get with, right? So this is all great news. Everyone seems happy, and I know that I'm definitely in that camp because I want to be able to get this game, the NFL, into a 2K game, right? So there's another article that came out that was from Polygon, and Polygon basically talked about the game and the news as well, right? And they gave their insight into what they thought this meant for simulation football guys, okay? And so I'm going to let this thing scroll here. You guys can kind of read it as it goes through. But, everyone who heard about this jumped on the news. It was like, oh, 2K's back. Get ready. All you 2K5 fans, get ready for the game. But it's not going to be simulation, right? So it was like, well, wait a second. Are they back in the game or they're not in the game? If they're not back in the game, then this news is a lot of just nonsense, right? For people is what they're thinking. And to be honest with you, it kind of is in a way, because if they're not going to be making a simulation product, which this is what we need to talk about here, then what is it that they're actually going to make? I mean, it could be anything. Okay, they talk about it being part of some social experiences, and it says here that the 2K and NFL agreement will produce multiple video games centered on fun, approachable, and social experiences, right? So that suggests that the publisher will focus on making games such as arcade-style sports titles in the vein of Saber Interactive's NBA 2K Playgrounds number 2. Well, 1 and 2, right? And we all know that NFL Street, if we go back to NFL Street, that was a great game for the time. I mean, we had a lot more options back then. And you're talking the early to mid 2000 range. And NFL Street was kind of like an NFL Blitz, but it had NFL teams, it had NFL players, and so on and so forth. But part of this deal with 2K and the NFL is this is only for the actual NFL brand, and that only covers the names, the logos, the associated elements for the league, and its 32 teams. But it does not include the names, images, and likenesses of any NFL players, right? Those are two separate agreements, which the NFL Players is a license agreement with the NFL Players Association. Okay, so that's a separate agreement. And as of right now, 2K's representatives could not comment on whether or not this deal for the Players Association was in place or not. So we don't even know if they're going to be able to show player names, right? Now, this may be where the simulation and non-simulation debate kind of centers around, because if you think about it, one could argue and say, okay, well, a simulation game, if you're simulating football and you're simulating the NFL, then the only way that it's a true simulation is if you have an exact carbon copy of the NFL, and that includes the players. So this is going to be a far-fetched thing. I don't think this is the I don't think this is the story behind it all. I think this is just a long shot. But in theory, if you don't have the players and the player names, then how could you say it's simulating the NFL? It's not, because the players aren't in there. And if you think about all pro football, and this is where I feel like this would be the ultimate, this would be the best case scenario out of this news for someone like me who loves simulation football. If they can make a game like all pro football, but make it a deeper franchise mode, make it whatever 2K5 was, and you just take out the players, but you have the NFL logos, you have all the NFL names and all the associated elements for the league, for all the 32 teams, and you get everything about the NFL branding in there, minus the players. Well, hey, we may have something here that we're actually interested in. And that's going to be like my long shot theory. That's going to be the best case scenario for simulation guys. If we can get a simulation, quote unquote, arcade, non-arcade gameplay game with simulation elements all over the place, but just remove the player names, well, right there, that would be the best case scenario, given the current news, given the fact that they're labeling them as non-simulation games, right? The fact that they talk about these games being centered around fun is the word that really, really, really sticks to me, and it's that thorn that says, wait, fun really, really, really closely resembles what they call arcade, right? So when you're in the arcade, you're having fun. Arcade games are fun. They're less realistic. They're more about pleasing the audience rather than looking like the real thing. So when So if I had to take my best guess scenario on what's going on here, they're going to be making, like other people have said, they're probably going to be making a game like NFL Street or NFL Blitz. Now, it could also be a game that's very deeply centered around simulation, but with more of a cartoony look as well, or an arcadey look. Like the graphics alone could be something that makes it less simulation, right? There's games like Hot Shots Golf or even Super Mega Baseball, right? Super Mega Baseball is a very, very, very simulation type of game. It's the kind of game where you play it and you're like, whoa, on the surface, it looks very, very, approachable, seems very easy to play. But when you start getting into the nitty gritty of the game and the nuts and bolts, that game is a simulation as any other baseball game. I mean, that game has a lot of depth to it, customizations in the second version. It has a very unique fielding mechanic and pitching and batting mechanics. I mean, the game has a lot of strategy in there. And when I think about a simulation game, I think about challenge, I think about strategy, I think about realism in the terms of these are the X's and O's that you get from a sports game, right? And so if they're going to make a game like Super Mega Baseball, but make it football, well, then you got my attention, because it doesn't have to be like NFL Street. It might be that non-simulation means Super Mega Baseball, but now make it football. So that's something that I'm really, really excited about as well. And that definitely, to me, is more realistic of a thing that happens out of this, or the outcome, than the first idea about making it like APF, but with NFL layered all over it, right? So that could be a possibility. The third possibility that I think it might be is that they're going to be making not 11 on 11, right? Because 11 on 11 is what they call simulation football, right? That's also something that has been known for people that are in the know, that there are some legal restrictions as to what people can do when it comes to football. And 11 on 11 is one of those very dark areas that we don't really know what the true legal terms are of EA. And there are games out there that are doing 11 on 11, indie games, but maybe they just don't make enough money, or they're just not as big of a piece of the pie where EA is going after them. But if 11 on 11 is locked down to just EA, which I know people are going to say, how can they lock it down? I get it. But believe me, there's something out there that people don't know about, and I'm not 100% privy to, but I've heard some things and I know some inside information that may or may not be accurate. But if that's the case, then they won't be doing 11 on 11, which lends itself more towards the NFL Street package, right? So the third idea I think that could come out of this is maybe like a mobile game or some kind of a Diamond Dynasty, MUT, which I would hate, absolutely hate for 2K to get into, which would be a more, baseball, football card trading game. Or it could also be a management game. It could be like Out of the Park Baseball. It could be something where you manage a team. It's not simulation gameplay, but there's simulation management, like a text-based type of game. I don't think that's going to be the case either, but that could be something else too. It could be like mobile or, a management game. It could be any one of these lesser prominent flavors that really would compete with a game like Madden, right? And when you look at Madden, we all know that Madden is not simulation. We all know that Madden is an arcade game for many respects. It has the structure and it has the format of an NFL game, an NFL season, an NFL franchise. It tries to do things like drafting players, like trading players, all these different things that you would want to have in the real football world into a game, right? But the way that their mechanics work and the way that their engine runs and their control systems and their overall game logic plays in the game is nowhere near reality. Okay, and that's where they fail as a company, in my opinion. They're trying to make a simulation game, but they don't have simulation gameplay, right? And aspects of the game that are simulation. Okay, so they have the structure of simulation, but they're failing. So if you look at a game like what 2K is going to bring out, then they may not be able to have that simulation structure, but they may be able to have simulation gameplay inside of a different non-simulation structure. Okay, so we'll see what that turns out to be. And the last thing I'm going to say about this is that this is very, very exciting news, not because we're going to get ESPN 2K5 rebooted in the next gen consoles, but because this is a step in the right direction towards opening the door with future exclusive or non-exclusive agreements with other game developers. And we can go back to the glory days of late 1990s and 2000s or whatever, even back to Nintendo, where you had Atari, where you had multiple game companies working on the same sport. And we want that, right? We want different games to be out there. And I know from reading these articles that the NFL is looking for non-exclusive development of non-simulation games on various platforms. But they also are looking to expand their brand across other companies in the future. And so, if anything, this could be, it's not the news that I wanted to hear, I'll tell you that. But at the same time, for the license to be locked down for the last 15 years, and I can't believe it's been that long, to now, we have at least some kind of agreement where 2K can put the NFL stamp on a game and possibly the NFL players is exciting. And the future of that, once they show what they can do and once they start to reconnect with these NFL representatives, then we can only imagine what could come out of this in the future. So it's a stepping stone in the right direction. I'm excited about it. I think that we can get some games from 2K in this agreement that are going to be pleasing for simulation guys. I think we have opportunities based on what we just discussed in this video, but we'll have to see how it plays out. I'm excited about it. I'm glad to be able to at least, hear that there's something in the works, and I can't wait to hear more down the road. I hope it's the news that we want down the road in the future, but I think for now it's going to be a lesser degree, and we'll have to see what happens. So this is my take on it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you stayed this long, I appreciate it. And there'll be more content coming out soon. And we will see you next time. All right. Peace.